Hey everyone, this is UtiniCast episode 434, being recorded on the 1st of March of 2022. This is the raw version of the show, which goes out live and also eventually to YouTube. Then we clean up the audio, and that will go out as a podcast tomorrow. And yeah, so any flubs or mistakes or whatever we make are going to show up on this and on the YouTube version, and then the hopefully the podcast will be a little more smooth. A little bit. whenever some obvious mistake has been made, I always try to clear it out, and also if there's happens to be a long pause because someone needs a moment or whatever, that's what we clear out. And we got a bunch of folks in the chat already, which is awesome. Hey, Shardbova, a new chatter it looks like. Bo Froley there I see already. Smooth Wolf, Tsunami. So I think I saw. Let's see.
Check.
Yep, we're good. All right.
Okay.
So we're almost ready. It's almost top of the hour. Let me go ahead and tweet out that we are live, and then I think we can just kind of get going with the podcast.
Sounds good. Okay. Just checking my levels again. Check. They look nice and compressed. Water under the bridge. Okay. I think we're good. Hi, chat. Hello, Balfroli. Hey, Diaz.
Yay. And I'll see if I can retweet it. There it is.
Shardbova. Hello.
We're basically right at 4, so this is the time. All right. Have a little water, and I think we'll get going. All right. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast qui est un nouvel espoir. This is episode 434, being recorded on Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, KittyKissz. Hey, Kitty.
Chill.
And no guests today, it's the two of us. There's lots to talk about, though, because 7.0 dropped on the date of the last show, so we have plenty of stuff that has happened since then, the first 2 weeks of the expansion. So let us know what's been going on and what you've been finding.
Well, I was on Working Class Nerds, Kitty Treats, and myself, and that was a lot of fun, as always.
I listened to it. It's awesome. It's really, really funny. Everyone really, I'm not, blowing up anyone's skirt. Go check it out. They did a great job. It was really funny. Marcus was funny. Everyone was funny. It was awesome.
Yeah, I let my hair down.
yeah, exactly. You weren't talking just specifically about SWTOR or even about gaming necessarily, but about relationships and food and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, it was really fun. Those guys are great. Let's see what else. I've been playing 7.0 and enjoying it despite lots of bugs. I have yet to play the 7.0 Flashpoint on either faction.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I am just kind of waiting for some bug fix.
Right. Did you even try it? Did you butt your head up against it and stop? Or are you saying you saw the bugs and you didn't even try?
I saw the bugs, didn't try. I am interested in doing it, but I have been playing through storyline with Kitty Treats and then on my solo streams, so I just haven't got to that point yet in the story, and I'm just kind of not in a hurry. I know that there's a lot of bugs, and I just kind of you know what, I want them to kind of clean some stuff up before I go in, because if there's a bug and I'm really into what's going on, I'm gonna be really bummed out. So no big deal, it'll happen. And I can say for sure that there's two different things that have happened in 7.0 that they put in. The loadouts and the shared tagging have changed the game for me completely.
Oh,
and
the tagging.
I
Okay.
have been loving it. The game feels a lot more friendly. It feels a lot more, copacetic.
Right.
And you're just running around and you see someone and and they're killing something, you just pop, 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 kill
Yeah.
something, you know, shoot
Toss a
whatever
hot on
they're
'em.
at. Yeah, it's just like, it's great. It seems like it's brought a lot of positivity into the game,
That's cool.
which is
Yeah.
really cool, especially when you're running like CZ7 CZ.
You're right. Right, because that was a seasons. I
Right.
did a fair bit of that last week.
Mm-hmm.
And
So when
yeah, and it's great for this tagging. It's still unfortunately like still the boxes and the barrels that need to be picked up and or destroyed. Yeah, those don't get shared between non-groupers, but
this
still
is a non-official little helper
okay.
bit here. Get in a group with whoever is down there, and you'll
Actually,
get
someone actually grouped with me. They said, you know, we were basically starting out at the same time,
right?
And so he just invited me, and we just kind of did it together. I don't think he said a single thing really to me, you know, like in chat or anything. We just, I just followed him as best I could. He was like really sprinting it, like
he was like
moving really fast. Yeah. And also, I have my own like idea of the order I like to do everything in. It was a little different, so at some points I had to like kind of follow him and find him and stuff, but it worked out okay.
But if they get something, if they get one of the, you know, the little barrels or whatever, you'll get credit for it no matter where
if you're
you
in a
are
group
in there.
Yeah,
if you're in groups. So you group up with 3 other randos while you're there, and you will
even if you spread out.
CZ. Yeah. And another thing I really liked is, you know, that the heroic down there where you have to beat up that gold robot, and there's just people tagging it.
Everyone just tags it now.
Everybody was, and people were there helping people tag it down so that, you know, it just felt very friendly.
That one does seem to be faction specific. Like if it gets tagged by the opposite faction, you know, you won't get credit. But as long as it got tagged by your side, you're fine. Yeah, right. I noticed that because I've actually joined in on a fight and I didn't get credit, and it's like, oh, and then I saw, okay, there was a reason that was like actually still grayed out.
Yeah, when I was down there the last week, there was a bunch of people, you know, just kind of congregating around that droid, and I was trying to figure out, is there a bug? Are people tagging it multiple times and getting credit or something like that? But I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. So, but and with that many people tagging it and it on such a fast timer, that I think people were there looting, you know, getting the node that drops with it, you know, so they get the scavenging. So, but anyway,
the other thing is, because everyone's doing the shared tagging thing, because I used to do it on PvP nodes just to avoid, you know, the anti-tagging version that we had earlier. You know, especially if I had a stealth character, because I always feel like, well, even if someone tries to PvP me and I don't want to PvP them, I can, you know, vanish if I'm on a stealth character, no worries. So this character just happened to be still like in that mode. So when I went to CZ on her, like even though the regular CZ is like really full usually, especially when it was the seasons one, she was the only one on the PvP node, because like no one's bothering, because you don't really need that anymore for the reasons like I was doing it. But I just I didn't even notice for a little while, and then I was like, man, it's really quiet here. And then I saw, you know, one person.
That's always nice when you look up and there's like one person. I used to run a lot on the PvP instances
that was an old tip of the week for me from a long time ago, just because hardly anyone, you know, usually bothers going on the PvP nodes. And so when you do, like, often you're the only one, and then, or at least there's not really anyone like really going after other people. If it happens, then you just go back to the regular node if you really if it's bothering you. So,
and I think you were the one that brought it up before I was even on the show, and I did it exclusively.
Yeah.
And then I can't do it anymore because stream snipers just come and kill me anytime.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah,
PvP,
that is a thing.
So.
That is a thing with streaming. Yeah, if there's enough people, then they can they can figure out where you are, and then just
as soon as I would pop over, it would be maybe 10-15 minutes, somebody would come and kill me. But yeah, I can't say how much I can't say how much I love this. The loadouts, I'm just like, try different load out, go over, get into another instance, load out into the stealthing class,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. I love it.
That's cool.
It's really, really fun. What else? Oh yeah, I am leveling an arsenal merc / sniper through the trooper story with Kitty Treats on the weekends for our dual streams.
Nice. What is she going with?
She right now just is an arsenal merc.
Okay.
She hasn't chosen a second class yet.
Right.
So, but man, I switch back and forth all the time.
Really?
It's like, even if sometimes when I get sick of looking at the sniper rifle, I'm like, I'm just going to go get 2 guns. Boop. So it's pretty fun. And then on my own, I'm leveling a sniper operative through the Imperial Agent story. That was a character that I had going before 7.0 dropped. And I'd never played operative.
Mm-hmm.
I never really, at least I've never played it and have it click with me.
Right.
But I am loving operative. I'm like, oh, it is a really, really, really fun class.
And are you doing like the backstab spec, or are you doing the dot spec?
A backstab spec.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's fun. And then of course, sometimes there'll be a large bonus that you need to kill like 30. So sniper. If there's no bonus like that, operative. Because with the sniper I can just kill large groups of people,
right,
or NPCs, and it's
the AoE is good on that spec. Or on that class, really.
And then operative, you're stealth.
Right, get past everyone.
It's so fun. But that's about it for me. Chill. What's going on?
All right, let's see. We got a pretty good amount of people in the chat room today. About W, Antles 2765, Bantha Mojito, Bo Froley, Deck is here, Flopleg, Jedi Knight 1, Kitty Treats is here, Melts is here, Merc for Soup, 9-Year, Ramakad, Riru's here, Arjar, Shardabova, Squishy Twitchy, that Tsunami Safari is here. Smooth Wolf was here. He's not showing in the list at the moment, but I know he was here earlier. Sometimes the list gets very weird. But hey, everyone, and thanks for joining us. And I wrote the same thing you did. In fact, I copied it, word for word, just because I found the same thing. Playing 7.0, enjoying it, and there's lots of bugs. For me, the one bug that's sort of the most irritating has been like the fact that can't really properly do the flashpoint, the Nox flashpoint. I did manage to get it done on the knight, on my tank knight. Maybe because she's a tank and she just wasn't being insta-gibbed by the weird bug or something, or maybe because one of her passives makes it, so that she doesn't take damage from that or whatever. I don't know why. Because it was also the first character I took through that period, and yet it worked fine. So combination maybe of tankiness, maybe a passive helping to prevent from being pulled into that whatever, that sort of thing. But yeah, the other two that I tried, I just could not get through it, and I banged my head against it on both of them. I tried the little tricks that people have suggested about, sticking mostly to the outside, about like dancing around that one rock, that you can kind of line of sight a little bit and stuff like that. Nothing was working, and so we'll just have to finish that on those characters some other time. Did get them to 80. They're still 80, of course. Didn't get through, but they're still 80, and they've gotten a little, mission to start working towards the special implants and all that. But yeah, it was that one. That one's kind of a bummer. There are other bugs within the flashpoint as well. They actually turned off the bonus boss in there, because there was also specifically a bug relating to that. I don't know what that one was, though. I actually successfully did the bonus boss on the first character, and then I never saw the things on the other characters because they had turned it off by then. So I'm not sure what the bug was, because I didn't happen to run into it. Let's see. So I did end up getting 3 characters to 80, and let's see. So this last week there was there were one of the seasons ones that I decided to do was like the Flashpoint one, and I was planning on doing it by doing doing Nox and then doing the side one, because I had known that that I'd known where the side boss was because I had done it before, but that was in the first week. And then, of course, the side boss never showed up, and I wasn't able to finish it. And if you don't completely finish the flashpoint, you don't get any credit at all. So the good thing, though, is Nox wasn't the only one on that list. You could have done either of the 2 Ilum flashpoints, which are both Malgus related, or you could have done Legacy of the Rakata, which is the 4th one of Prelude to Shadow of Revan. It's on Rakata Prime. That one. It's like a shadow. You see Revan at the end and all that. That one I know I can do pretty quickly, especially on a stealth character. So I actually did it twice on my stealth characters. And because it was on that list, doing that twice was more than enough points to get that one for the week. So that ended up being okay. But it was still kind of a pain in the butt. How are you finding seasons? It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of liking how it's kind of forcing me to do a few extra things or a few things that I might, not do otherwise. But it's nice that we don't have to do all of them. Like 7, right. We can pick 7 out of the 10. We don't have to stretch goal every week. And in fact, you don't really have to do 7 of 7 every week, as long as you're getting the daily occasionally and doing a reasonable amount of the weeklies. People have done the math, and basically, if you're doing 4, 5, 6, a week, and getting at least some of the dailies, if not most of the dailies, and the daily is dead easy. Sometimes I get halfway through the daily just by logging on and just doing crew skills on my banking alt. For the most part, it's really hard now, though, because it's now 100,000 points instead of 50,000 for seasons. It's really hard to get people to the 100,000 mark without taking them out of your stronghold, but it can be done. I have done it on my banking alt. It's not easy, but it can be done. You want to do the deco one is still there, so I do that one every day. Influencer is kind of an important one because you get a pretty reasonable amount of points for that one. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing those 2 every day, you're going to get reasonably close, and then hopefully the crafting and the crew skills that you do will get you the rest of the way. It's a little iffy, and you might have to do either some special crafting, like the war crafting. They usually have those still up as well. You could do some of those. If you're really desperate for a big chunk, then you could, and you have a stronghold that's not completely opened, you could open up a section of a stronghold once a week, to sort of get someone there. That would work as well. But yeah, technically I think you can do that one daily, but that's you're gonna open up everything real fast if you do it that way. Right. So yeah. I found that. Really? Yeah, like Tsunami is saying that Tsunami can do 2 tunes a week inside the stronghold. For me, it's 1, but that I only do 1 page's worth of people, and I don't do tons of other stuff, just for crafting. So yeah, for me, it's just 1, but that's fine. Let's see. And I have leveled Storm, so I have started up a knight with sorcerer abilities, and she's up to Prelude to Shadow of Revan.
Nice.
Well, actually, she's now done with it because I did finish it today right before the stream. So she was done with the first flashpoint before today, and then today I actually finished it up. So I ended up seeing Legacy of the Rakata 3 times in 2 days, which is a lot, but it's all good. For whatever reason, Storm, she was doing Prelude to Shadow of Revan, as the story where you talk to, Theron if you're Republic, or Lana if you're, Empire, and they basically tell you which flashpoint to go do, and then you go do it, and you come back, there's more conversations, then you do a second, and then a third, on Manon, and then the 4th is Rakata Prime. But for whatever reason, when I did it this way, when Storm did it through the story, and it is the normal flashpoint on story mode, but for whatever reason, when you do it that way, it didn't count towards the seasons weekly. I don't know if that's a bug or if they meant it not to count if you're doing it through the story that way. I don't know, but whatever. Like I said, what I was thinking of doing is, okay, Rakata Prime is on the list. Mm-hmm. I was 1 of 8, and so if I do 3 more flashpoints and then a 4th, and then that last one is Rakata Prime, that gives me 4 extra bonus points. That's actually 9 technically out of 8, so that would give me the weekly. But then I did the first flashpoint on her, and it wasn't counting. It's like, oh, okay. Well, for whatever reason, when I'm doing it through the story this way, it's not counting. So let's just go get the weekly done because it's the last day before the reset. So then I just did Rakata Prime twice. So for whatever reason, doing it the normal story way doesn't seem to count toward the flashpoints for the week. So that's feels like a bug, but maybe they intended it. I don't know.
That's very strange because I did Ilum, and those counted as the those counted when I did them through the story. So
right.
Maybe that one's bugged.
Yeah, maybe it's just because of the way that Prelude to Shadow of Revan is set up, you know, as a story with like little breadcrumbs all along the way. I don't know. But whatever, it's fine. So, and for the last over a year on Duolingo, I've been learning French, and it's been going steadily but quite slowly. You know, that's kind of how it is. I can't force myself to do like tons and tons of it every day. So I do a little bit every day. I get my little daily. Usually I'm out of there. Sometimes I'll do 2 or 3, but usually I'll do like 1 lesson a day. And that's a pretty slow way to go, especially, you know, after you've done it for like over a year. So I thought, well, you know, at some point I'm going to have to be exposed to the language, like in a more natural form. So I thought, well, I've seen Encanto a couple of times recently, so I know the story pretty well. And it's pretty straightforward and whatever, you know, I heard the songs and blah, blah, blah. So I tried to watch it in French, but there was an issue that I quickly ran into as a not really a French speaker. The subtitles don't match what they're saying in the French speaking version. So what's happening apparently is, you know, they started with English in this case, when they made Encanto, and then someone does a translation for the voice actors, and then the voice actors do their thing. But then the subtitle people are not doing it based on that. They're doing it based on their own translation of the English words. So they end up being different. Like occasionally they're the same. Like sometimes the sentence is the same, you know, especially as like little simple ones like, you know, Kiska and, you know, little things like that are often the same. But then as soon as it gets complicated, like they're off on different ways of saying the same thing. It's just how, you know, that's just kind of how it works. Right. But it's really difficult for me to like learn that way because it's like I'm hearing one words, I'm trying to follow along with like other words, you know, by reading them, and then they're not always matching up, and then I've got to figure out, okay, what are they actually saying? It was a really big pain in the ass. So you might think, what the heck does this have to do with Star Wars? So I tried Star Wars in French. This is why I bring this up. I told that story to tell this story, that sort of thing. The same thing happens in Star Wars: A New Hope. So someone does a translation, and then they do voice actors, and they do one translation, and then they do the subtitles based on a different translation of the actual English words. It sucks. I cannot learn this way. This is no bueno.
No bueno.
No bueno. So disappointing. So either, like, if I do watch Star Wars, I'm either going to have to turn off the subtitles and just try to really pay attention to the words, or vice versa. Turn down the sound and just put on the subtitles. I'm not sure which way would work better for me. I'll worry about that some other time. But what I also wanted to say is the French voiceovers are very interesting, very hit and miss, and I definitely recommend that you go check it out. For example, like Leia is nearly perfect. Like, and I'm not saying it has to be identical to the regular actors either. But just, I really like the Leia voice. Very nice Leia voice. Luke sounds about like 20 years older than he should. I don't know if it's a young actor who was smoking a lot, or if they actually got some guy who was like 35 or 40 to actually do him, but he sounds old. Like his voice has an older quality to it. So that kind of weirded me out, because, you know, Luke is supposed to be 19, I think, in the movie. Anyway, yeah. Han Solo and Obi-Wan are different from the English ones, I would say, but also interesting. Like, it works for me. It's like, oh, that's kind of a cool voice for Han Solo. Like he's kind of smoother, but it's in a good way. Like that was really cool. Kenobi was kind of like Kenobi, but a little different, and that was fine. C-3PO was like very amusing, very sort of comical, kind of what you'd want. A little different, you know, than the English, but it was good for the character. However, Darth Vader, yeah, there's no easy replacement for James Earl Jones. Let's just put it that way. I mean, you know, James Earl Jones himself like replaced the voice actor, you know, the actual actor who did the acting on set, and they actually, you know, and then they actually just replaced him in post with James Earl Jones. There's a reason they did this. James Earl Jones is amazing, and the French guy is hilarious. Like it is It is a comedy fest. It sounds like me maybe pitching down my voice about 2 notes and then talking into my old 1978 walkie-talkie. Like, I sounds about like this, only speaking in French. It is hilarious. It is amazing. And everyone can do this. You just go to if you have a Disney Plus, you have access to all the other, Star Wars language options that are out there, and there's a lot of them. Yeah, check out the regular French one. There's a French-Canadian one, too. I haven't checked that one out. But check out the regular French one and go to any of the Darth Vader scenes, especially, of course, the first one, and taking the passengers, I want them alive, It is amazing. It is amazing. So, one more thing about the French before we move on. I'm going to try to play SWTOR in French. Now, I tried this a long time ago, and I ended up having to give up on it because I just wasn't far enough along with French, and I was not really learning the language. I was just kind of like getting what was going on in the stories from the context, which isn't the same thing, and it certainly didn't help me actually learn it. So I did give it up at one point. I tried it and gave it up at one point, and the thing I still remember is Bugtown on Belmore is called Verminville, which I love. Verminville. Every time I go to Bugtown, I have to call it Verminville. Verminville. So it was a lot. It was a lot of fun trying it though back in the day, and I decided we're going to try this again. I haven't done it yet, but I've set it up. So if you want to do the French or if you want to do the German version, it would be the same idea. How you do it is, and I don't do Steam, so this is the regular version. But you do the launcher. Like I haven't put in my password. I haven't put in my security code. It's just the launcher. And in the lower left, there's a little symbol with a little, whatever it is. I don't even know what it's supposed to be. It's a really weird one, but whatever. I think it's supposed to be like a decision tree sort of symbol. And that'll actually let you change the language. And then you hit OK, and it'll take you back. And then once you actually put in your passcode and your security code, and it goes to the checker where it's actually checking to make sure your client is OK, it'll actually load all of the French stuff at that point. And be very careful about this because this will add all of the French written words that you need, like for all the cutscenes, but also like, for descriptions and things on the screen and everything else in your UI, all that stuff, but also all of the vocal lines. That is a lot. That is a lot of vocal lines. It is another 10 gigs. It is another 10 gigs. So basically, it's what's telling you is like, because the game itself is like 26 to 30 gigs. I think it's kind of crept over time, So like half the game is basically like vocal lines. Like there's a lot of vocal lines in this game. There's a lot. And because of this, my poor like SSD, which is a little old and it was never very big, it's pretty full now. Like I had to clean it out just so I could actually do this, and it still is down to have like 3 gigs left, and it's my Windows disk, so it's like I'm really nervous that it's gonna like screw things up.
Yeah.
So I'm desperately trying to get rid of like everything I can, but whatever. I did a little test, just to see, but it does seem, and I kind of remembered from doing this, back in the day for however long it was, maybe a few weeks or something. This is like pre-streaming too. You won't be able to find it like me streaming it because I wasn't doing it. This is when I was doing the podcast, of course, because I've done the podcast since SWTOR's pre-launch. But anyway, I wasn't really streaming early on. Anyway, so SWTOR fortunately does it right. Like they're actually using, for the subtitles on the screen, they're actually using the words that the voice actors used, so they actually match. Yeah, and it happens in English too, so I wasn't too surprised, but I'm glad that it's, it actually is like that when you actually switch it too.
Yeah.
Phew. So I'm looking forward to trying this. If you want to see me desperately try to learn French, I will be starting that in probably a day or two.
Wow.
I am very excited, but also a little nervous. I am not good with languages. I do not have a natural propensity to learn languages. I took like 4 years of high school Spanish, hardly know any Spanish. I took a year of college French, hardly know any French. Yeah, it's for me, it's rough. I'm not one of those people who are just gifted with languages. It's a skill, or whether it's a talent or a skill or a little both. Whatever it is, I definitely envy you if you have that. Holy cow. It is such a cool thing. So I am doing.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so
Talk about
learning a new language
post
post 50 years of age. But I will be trying this, and the cool thing is like you can swap it back. So actually, once I loaded the French and I tested it, made a little character, and saw that this opening scene, like they're actually saying the words that are appearing on the subtitles. And then I went back and I swapped it back to English, and it didn't have to load anything new. So it doesn't unload your English or anything like that, which is also why it takes another 10 gigs, because it's not freeing anything up to do it. So, but you can just swap it back and forth once you've done that, and it won't have to reload anything. So it's,
where do you swap it back and forth?
Again, just pull up the initial launcher and do it then before you put in a password or security code or anything, and tell it, okay, I want English, or okay, I want French or German if you want to learn German or no German. I mean, I'm sure there are people who already know German probably already know this. So anyway, I'm excited to try this, and I think also doing it on stream is going to keep me a little more honest about like actually learning the words, and not just like trying to get a vague gist of it based on context and stuff like that, but actually trying to learn it. It'll probably be frustrating at some points, but I'm looking forward to trying this out and really going for it. So
hats off to you, Jill.
Thanks. Well,
that's
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I thought about doing the Spanish version, just popping over there and doing it, but I accidentally turned my SWTOR.com onto Spanish and was lost. And I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like, right. Like kind of a tester, I'm like,
right.
But no,
it's going to, I assume I'm going to be like a little frustrated at times. And the funny thing is, like, of course, this is not necessarily the best way, but it's a way that I can do, given the fact that, I'm, there's COVID out there still, so it kind of limits what you can do for in-person stuff, and I don't really know people to speak French with anyway, and all this a million reasons. But yeah, I'm gonna apparently if this works, I'm gonna know like a very weirdly specific type of French where I can talk a lot about missions and enemy killing and and scouting and stuff like that. But
lightsaber and Verminville.
I will have hardly ever run across how the weather is and where the bus station is and
well, if you're
stuff
going to be
like
on
that.
The French server, you're going to be communicating to other people in French. So
I could, but I'm planning on actually playing on the regular server, but just the whole client.
Okay, so you're not going to go.
You're not forced into the French server, okay. Just by being in the French client, which is kind of cool actually, because you can, cool. Which probably means like occasionally you might have been playing with someone who's been experiencing everything in French or German and just not know it.
Nice.
If you group up with someone, they just don't happen to mention that they're German language proficient or whatever. So yeah, cool. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's gonna
no
be
idea
really
how
cool.
it's gonna go. And like I said, I'm not gifted with languages. So this, if you want to see someone beat their head against learning French, this might be an ideal way to see it. I'll be streaming it. It's gonna be interesting. So there we go. All right, enough of me and my silliness. Off to the tip of the week, and we have a bunch of tips this week. Although they're from guildies and stuff, which is fine. I'll start with mine. We'll just do them in the order they show in the notes. This Will Do Nicely, season 2. It's one that showed up, and I'm sure it'll show up on a loop of some sort. I think they're on a 3-week loop or something like that, or 4-week loop, something like that. From what I remember, 3-week loop, I want to say. Anyway, there's something called This Will Do Nicely, and you have to, this is for the weekly, for seasons, and you affect enemies with destructible objects. So, the explosive barrels, the lightning barrels, the stun barrels, the freezing barrels, all those. 0-15, but hitting, what I found out is when I did this one, hitting multiple enemies means each last one counts towards the goal. So, if possible, gather enemies near them and then pop it, if that's, reasonable. And if not, well, at least if you can hit 2 or 3 of them, great. You're at least a fifth of the way through 0-15 instead of just 1 of 15. So yeah, so it's not counting it based on how many barrels you've bursted. It's basing it on how many enemies you've affected. So there you go.
That's
that's tip 1. You have the next tip?
Yeah. So this is something I ran across when I accidentally opened an extra Fenzel, because I usually only open one, because I know that if you don't do this tip, then you kind of screwed. So the tip is that you only the new edition, the Duros companion that you get for season 2. Make sure that you're only giving one of those Fenzels the companion gifts that drop for leveling in season 2, Galactic Seasons 2.
Right.
Because you need to get that Fen up to 50 in order to unlock it for your whole account. And you will not be able to do that by sharing those gifts with other Fens.
They basically design it so you get pretty much 50 and only 50 on one character. Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't, until you unlock it, you can't go to the little seasons vendor and get more gifts for other Zens, for Fenzales rather. I want to say Zen. I don't know why.
Pick one character and only gift that Fenzel, and only that one.
And my way of doing that is I only unlock him on one person.
I used to do that, and I mistakenly was excited about it and opened another one and almost gave him a gift and went, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Interesting. Sniper Katan says Fenn's a bad healer, by the way. I wonder what's up with that. There is a little bit of variation between companions, but it's possible he's either bugged or one of his abilities isn't working properly in some way. I don't know. He didn't specify. Maybe he'll say more. It's interesting though. Yeah, you always have to watch out for that. Not necessarily, but there's not a lot of those kinds of bugs in the game. But good to know with a new companion. So keep him on tanking, I guess, or damage. Let's see. The next one was from Dekion, our guild leader. Underworld Syndicate currency is legacy bound, which these are the ones. Kind of speaking of Fenzale, because Fenzale is like the leader of this Underworld Syndicate, and there's this. After you do talk to him, then you'll talk to this other gal who is like the sort of the ambassador of the Underground Syndicate. And you're going to give her these reputation items called, what are they? The name's not here, but whatever it is, the Underground Syndicate stuff.
Right.
I think it's, whatever it is. Anyway, it's legacy bound, and it actually goes onto your the legacy part of your inventory too. So it just goes straight in there. You never see it as an actual object in your regular inventory.
Right.
So what he says is, after I mess all that up, he says, rather than turning him in to Ki Dinar all at once, spread them over multiple tunes to maximize your conquest points. Right, because there is a there's like I think it's, I can't remember how often you can do it, but you gain reputation, you get a bunch of conquest points. It's one of the conquest things you can do. Remember, once you turn over the plans to KittyKissz, the reputation rewards you receive are bound to that character. So turn in a few at a time on several characters. With the full stronghold bonus, advancing any reputation is worth about 42,000 conquest points, repeatable daily, and the reputation is legacy wide. That's really cool. Right, because all reputation is legacy wide in the game, especially nowadays. I think maybe they didn't have it back then, but anyway, yeah. And also some of them are Republic or Empire, but this is one that is truly legacy wide. And yeah, so that's actually a really nice one, because you can actually swap to different characters, get the bonus on, get the conquest points on different people. So maybe I'll be able to do more than one character to 100,000 per week now that we know it. I unfortunately I think I've already turned in mine for this week, but I will have to do that. So thank you, Deck, and I will definitely remember that for starting next week. So that'll help out the guild too. And let's see. And the other one is from Ducky, who has an email later on as well, because there's a duck hunt coming up. He also sent in a tip of the week, and Ducky says, now that missions are auto-completing, instead of making you them return to the terminal, if they have a bonus mission associated, you need to finish the bonus before completing the main, because the auto-completion erases the bonus.
Yes,
there
it
you go.
does.
We've seen this sort of thing before in the game. You know, there are other ones where if you happen to complete the regular mission, the bonus goes away. You don't get a chance to finish it. That makes it so that all, you know, dailies and weeklies and so forth that are like this are going to happen that way as well. So if you're on like a daily area and you see a bonus, and yeah,
get that bonus
definitely
done
get
first.
that bonus done before you do that last little bit that you need to do. So that's a really good tip to have. So thank you, Ducky. Really appreciate that one. All right. So if you have a tip of the week, you can send it to OotiniCast@gmail.com before the next show for a chance to win a Taunfaun or a Mate 3R droid pet code or an M2B9 droid code courtesy of BioWare and an OotiniCast provided ultimate pack. And Kitty, so why don't we go ahead and we're going to do a code for one of the new Voltillas.
Say that.
Yeah.
All right, we are going, and we've got Shrod Bova.
Okay. How do you spell that?
H-A-R-D, Shard Bova.
Shard Bova. Okay, congratulations, Shard Bova. I'll send it to you by whisper here in a sec. 434, and then we'll get the show going again.
Yeah,
All
there's
right.
a bunch of a lot of places in the game too. You'll find that you're gonna want to get that bonus done before you turn into other missions. Whenever
Woot woot.
I try to remind everybody that when I'm streaming, I'll go, make sure you get those bonuses done. Or if I'm playing with someone else, I'm like, wait for everyone to get close so we can all get the bonuses.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always disappointing to me, like even if it's just leveling story stuff, and you just happen to get that one last thing done and then the bonus goes away. It's like, oh.
Yeah, congratulations, Shard Boba.
And we'll give out another Opal Voltilla towards the end of the show. Let me go back to the show notes here. So that'll bring us to the Mind Trap. And so we actually asked two sort of related questions this week. So we were at this point, this was a week ago. We almost always do this a week ahead of the show. A week into 7.0, how are you finding endgame gearing? And also we asked part 2, how are you finding leveling in 7.0? So the answers were too slow or complex for endgame gearing, about right, or too fast or easy. And for the leveling, too slow / difficult, about right, or too fast / easy. There were whenever you do it, we've done this once or twice before, and the second one always gets fewer votes. Just people don't necessarily notice it or whatever. It's fine. We understand. There was 493 votes on the gearing one, and on the secondary one about leveling, there's 153 votes. And so let's see. So too slow or complex, one with over half the vote, actually 55.4%. About right was 37.5%, and too fast or easy only 7.1%. So most people found it too slow or complex. That was actually my vote. I'm kind of close to saying it's about right, but I really do think it's a little on the too tricky side, especially since like there's all these weird different tracks for different kinds of the different kinds of activities to get the different kinds of gear. To me, it's like it's a step too far back towards complexity. And in Onslaught, they really worked to make gearing pretty straightforward. You could do most anything you wanted to in the game, and it would. Some were faster than others, certainly, but you could eventually get to 306 just doing solo stuff, just doing whatever, pretty much. And this time it's kind of the opposite, and you kind of have to focus on it, and you have to figure out, okay, where you're going to get it, and that sort of thing. And so I'm on the too slow or complex, kind of close to the about right, but I did vote for too slow or complex personally. For the leveling in 7.0, too slow or difficult was actually lost, so 21.6%, about right 37.9%, too fast / easy 40.5%. So too fast or easy was the winner, but not by as much this time. About right was a little bit behind it at 37%, so 40%, 38% we'll call it because it's 0.9%, and too slow or difficult 21.6%. So a lot of people felt that the actual leveling is pretty easy or about right, as opposed to the actual gearing, which is too slow or complex on average. And I thought it was maybe too fast / easy for the leveling, But that's really if you're doing it through the story. If you happen to be like leveling a character from 1 to 80, I can already see ahead of time now. Like I'm doing Storm, there's a lot of points, and it's only too fast and easy because if you do it through the story, you're gaining like 1.5 million, 2 million at a chunk when you get these little story bits done. Even the bonuses are like 300,000, 500,000, and so on. It's a lot of experience. Crazy. It does go very fast, but that's through the story. And I can see where it's like if you're, starting a new character and you're maybe in Kotet when you're hitting 75, getting those last 5 levels is going to feel pretty slow. I can tell already. But yeah, through the story, it's really fast. And then of course, gearing is like is the second part of leveling really, and that part is way different. So how about you, Kitty? I already talked about what I feel. What do you feel?
On the first one, do I find endgame gearing? I thought it was about right. I think this is one of the first times that it ever clicked immediately for me. When I went to Fleet, I went, oh, okay, this all makes total sense to me.
Okay,
where
good.
You get all the stuff and where you go to turn stuff in and things like that. So, but yeah, and I also, I'm into it growing too, and the numbers getting higher,
mm-hmm.
which is going to be really cool. And as far as leveling,
uh-huh.
I was in between about right and too fast. I think it
Fair
was
enough.
too fast in the story
mm-hmm.
because you'd watch your toolbar go all the way through and then halfway through. And
I too
really,
gained
really
like
fast.
1.5 levels at a couple
mm-hmm.
points, and it's like I skipped I think 76.
Yeah, it was like so. In that regard, it was too fast and too easy. But I'm leveling a character right now, and it's about right.
Good.
So,
yeah, I have noticed on Storm it feels pretty similar to how it did before.
mm-hmm.
Maybe a little slower, which is I'm okay with. Tsunami saying it feels slower or it feels much slower now because of no XP from Conquest, which is true. You don't get XP from Conquest stuff anymore, and that was a kind of a nice boost. And this is also why I like my banking alt is still level 75, for instance. That sort of thing. What I found leveling Storm, and I tried to level Storm as close to like what I consider my normal way. Like I didn't use the XP gear. I was in the guild. I am a subscriber, and I do use the XP boosts, like the buffs. And it felt pretty normal. Like I was basically doing mostly just the class story stuff, and it was a little slower than it was in Onslaught. She was a few levels lower than she was otherwise, but it felt pretty similar.
Yeah.
And now that she's she's about to go to Rishi, and she's like a little behind now. I think it's going a little more slowly now, but that's all right. She's still basically at level. It's not like I'm in danger of
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite. Because you do Ilum, you do Makeb, you do blah 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 blah, and Makeb's only 55. And you're past 55 by the time you finish it, and blah blah blah. I'm still being ranked down at this point, but I'm just not as far ahead as I would have been like an Onslaught. So it still feels pretty good, really. I mean, it's not a difficult leveling process at all.
No, and there's so many different ways that you can get XP if you want to over level like myself. I'm like, give me those abilities. I don't care. Level me down, but give me the abilities. So I just got to Terrace, and I'm level 30 something. So
right,
but yay.
Yep, and we had some people reply, of course. Intisar. Said, I picked up 2 legendary implants and a 326 main hand, which feels good for less than 2 weeks of progress.
Nice.
I know there are grind paths through Primal D, GSF, and PvP, but I've got the pieces that matter the most, and I'm okay taking the scenic route the rest of the way. Nice. That's pretty cool. Cog said, gearing for PvP is pointless right now. Dev said that they took out Bolster. However, something fell off when I started putting 320 and above gear. It turns out 306 is the min-max for PvP right now. And there's a video about it, which I have a link in the show notes because it didn't really copy-paste very well. Oh. And it's not from Cog. It's from someone else that he feels did a good job of explaining it.
Oh, okay.
But there is a link in the show notes. And would you mind putting it into the
no
Twitter chat?
On it.
Or Twitch chat, rather. And thank you. And Averia wrote, at first I hated it, but if you farm no life on, for example, Belsavis, and then Nightmare, Nephra, PvP, GSF, and get your green gear up to 326, it's doable. It's all about skipping the upgrades you need to do manually, like Nightmare and Nephra did drop me some 324, for example.
Nice.
Pretty cool if that happens, yeah. Jedi Zen said, I did story for leveling, conquest for commendations, planetary heroics for aquatics, GSF and PvP for Thrisian upgrades, and then used saved up tech fragments from 6.0 for implants. So Jedi Zen was like ready to rock. That tells me that someone was doing homework.
Someone's got spreadsheets.
Yep. And it said it took me 1 week to get to 327, which is 330 implants, 326 everything else. That's amazing. Shintar said, I'm not a fan of the complexity of all the different sets and currencies. The speed seems okay, but the system also seems to encourage no-lifing as your progress is directly tied to being able to do all the things. I have felt a bit bad to see guildies who play all day max out already.
Yeah.
It is one of those things where you can kind of grind hard on it if that's what you're all about.
Yeah.
Lady Jedi Shadora Nix said, I don't like the gearing too much. For people like me who work full time, it's a pain to get the gear, especially if you have lots of alts. I wish they had made it a bit faster and less complex. Floplag said, my issue with is the step between levels are so minor it feels almost pointless going up by 2 levels at a time. I would have preferred a jump, been in like more of intervals of 8 or 10 or whatever, where it actually added a significant jump to over tiny steps. And it's interesting. It's an interesting point because it does feel a little different from like previous expansions where whenever there was whenever you got a new piece of gear, it did feel more like a jump. Even the 302, 304, 306 gold stuff felt a little bit more of a jumpy than you might expect, given the numbers are the same. Maybe so, yeah.
To me, it felt more exciting. I don't know why, but I really like the gear grind, but I am so taking just the leisure route.
Right. So am I.
Because I know it's all the chase is. It just started. You just got on the gear chase path.
Right. Yep. Dino Rubble responded, my issue hasn't been speed or complexity. It's more I've had to spend time out of the game trying to figure out what and how I'm supposed to interact with the new systems. And that is poor game design. For a game with a built-in tutorial, this is shameful. Yeah, it does feel like guides from Volk and from other people who have been doing guides have been like kind of go-tos, like really important for a lot of people to figure out exactly what's going on. And even for me, it's like, I can get the basics myself, but when it comes to like, once I get a character kind of maxed out or close to maxed out, I am going to go to Volk and kind of make sure, okay, well, how much, accuracy do I need? How much, alacrity and all that do I need? So, yeah.
I like to know the numbers, even if I'm not always going to hit them. But I always have to go there and check them out.
Right. Nicole May wrote, 6.0 gearing was gear up by any means necessary. Play the content you want. 7.0 gearing, you'll take the gear we give you and you'll like it. So she's not a fan of the change. Not a fan of the change for sure. And it is a little bit more like that. Like there are tracks for the gear, and this one's PvP, and this one is operations, and conquest is another, which fortunately is a little more broad. And when it's tracked like that, it is going to feel like, it's going to feel more tracky for sure.
And it feels a lot closer to the way it used to be, earlier in the game where you had to run.
If you had to run flashpoints on certain,
you had to do it in order to get the gear, like the ops and stuff like that, to get the best gear.
Yeah. Highlands Hachiroku said, it's a bit tedious. I've been playing a couple of hours every night and still only have 5 pieces of 322 so far. The aquatic resource matrix amount given is too low. Metals are okay. Yeah, there you go.
I'll probably change that.
Yeah, those are some of the highlights. There are other people who responded a bit, and thank you to everyone who did. So on average, people feel the gearing is a little too slow, a little too complex. on average. And on average, the leveling itself from 75 to 80 especially, I think it feels kind of too fast and easy, which is kind of fair. At least this way, if you're doing it through the story, you can get your characters there quickly, and then you can at least worry about the curing, which is going to be slower for sure. Yeah.
I wonder if they're also going to eventually, I haven't heard anything about this, but I hear a lot of people talking about they wish that they could skip even more of the story in order to get to the end game stuff. But
interesting.
I think that, being able to skip directly to Onslaught that's pretty awesome. Because you used to have to play all the way through Coffee and Kotet.
Right.
Just to get there. Oof.
Yeah. All right. And then we're going to go to Cantina Talk. This is a relatively new segment, and we've done it a couple times. We did skip it last week because of the dropping of 7.0, but in previous weeks, we've talked about Tara Strong and Nika Futterman. This time, it's kind of a simple one. It's a one and done because he only did one voice for SWTOR, but it's pretty awesome. And that's the voice of Nika Okar, which doesn't seem to be the same as the one in the actual game, but we're talking about the from the trailer Return. The Nico Okar was voiced by John DiMaggio, which is pretty incredible. John DiMaggio is a legendary voice actor. Many will know him from being the voice of Bender in Futurama, plus a lot of other Futurama voices. And might as well go ahead and drop that news right now, because Futurama is apparently coming back. It's going to be on Hulu. Unfortunately, I don't have Hulu, but hopefully I'll see these at some point. And he was sort of a holdout of some sort. It wasn't clear exactly what was going on. If it was, if they were just hoping not, to cheap things out by choosing some other actor who could sort of do Bender or whatever. But he was like the only one of the original voice actors who wasn't coming back to Futurama, but now he is. We just learned that today, shortly before the show. So apparently everyone's back. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure exactly what happened behind the scenes there.
What happened was that they're standard, right? You get a standard fee, wage for doing the work.
Right.
And Katie and Fry and Leela both kind of went, yes, we'll do it. But without kind of considering what scale was. Right. And they wanted to pay them less than scale. And John DiMaggio was like, look, it's scale. You're trying to pay us less money for the work. It's not like he was waiting out for a whole bunch of money. He just wanted to get paid what he should get paid for it. So I'm glad that he finally got on board, because I'm a huge Futurama fan, and I have no idea what they would do without John DiMaggio on that show.
Right.
He's so many voices.
Yeah. Pull a Poochie. Yeah.
I haven't thought of that in forever.
So anyway, he is supposed to be coming back. He even tweeted out, I'm back, baby, which is awesome. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to know about it, even if I don't get to see it right away. I'll figure out some way to watch it at some point, I'm sure. Maybe I'll break down and get Hulu, or maybe it'll come out on on some other format that I can actually get it.
I may or may not give you my Hulu code to watch it.
Or maybe, sort of kind of come over and see it or something. I don't know. We'll figure out something anyway, though. He started out in the early 90s, and he started actually as doing regular acting work, like not voice acting work, but regular acting work. And by the late 90s, he was mostly doing voice work, and that's pretty much what he's known for now. Some interesting ones that I thought were kind of cool was he was General Grievous on the Star Wars Clone Wars, the 2004 one, like the one with a really cool, wild, art style and everything. That one.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's really wild. He was Dr. Draken on Kim Possible. Interesting that he's been in both a bunch of Spider-Man and other 2000s Marvel characters, animation characters. He did a lot of villains like Rhino, but he's also done a bunch of DC characters, and especially villains like Gorilla Grodd. He's also done Aquaman, for example, on Batman the Brave and the Bold. He's done a bunch of roles on several different Ben 10 shows. He did a bunch of roles on various Scooby-Doo shows. He's had multiple roles on American Dad, and perhaps, more obviously, he has had multiple roles on Disenchantment, because that's Matt Groening's other, post Simpsons show beyond Futurama is Disenchantment, which I kind of like. I've seen some of it, and it is kind of fun. It's it's a little hit and miss for me, but there's definitely parts that I think is really good. And he is pretty funny in it. DiMaggio is.
It's great.
So so congratulations, John DiMaggio, on being back with Futurama. We're really glad also that you did Nico Okar in the Return trailer. So if you go back and listen to that again, you'll hear his voice, and he's got the fastest ship in the quadrant. Kitty, before the news, why don't we go ahead and do the other? We'll do the other code giveaway.
Okay, drum roll. Spike Trap Claire. I will.
Okay.
I'm going to. Where can I get this to you?
I think I can find it here. Hopefully she's on the list here. I see it. Okay. Yep, and I can do the whisper here. All right. And I do the copy. Congratulations, Spike Trap Claire. And let me do the whisper here. Where is it? There it is. Oh, okay. User has turned on block whispers from strangers. So, Spike Trap, if you can whisper me back at OotiniCast, or let me know some other way. Hopefully, we can get you that code. But as for the moment being, we'll move on and keep going with the show here. Let me get back to the show notes. But congratulations. Yeah, so we've got the holofeed. We actually do have some letters after that as well. A fair bit of news. Mostly, there's a lot of bug reports. We've not necessarily focused on it. We've talked about a few bugs, but there's a fair number of bugs in 7.0. There was a keybind issue supposedly fixed, although there was later on a couple of notice that some people were having maybe some issues. But apparently the main key binding issue was fixed. Some people were either when they're logging in and out of places, or if they were changing their specs and so on, they were having keybind issue problems. Apparently, though, mostly fixed. They are aware of the Unify color issues in the Outfitter. That one's being reported a lot. For me, I haven't had too much problem with the regular Outfitter on my character, but I cannot get companion outfits to color match at all. It is not happening.
I thought Kitty Treat's head was going to explode when she tried all the options, and then we both decided to try multiple options by, okay, let's log in and put the gear on that we want, and then click the buttons. Let's click. We tried all different kinds of ways, and nothing.
Oh no!
Also, I've noticed that when you're clicking through on your Outfitter, sometimes it won't show you what you have on that number.
Right? Yeah, it shows
Weird.
Yep, I've seen that.
And the colors will be mixed up, but
too.
they will be right. The colors will be right when you're on your character, but not in the Outfitter. They won't look right.
Okay. Yeah, so if Spike Trap Claire doesn't get back to us, say, by the end of the news, we'll just we'll give the same code out instead to someone else. We'll try it again. But yep, we'll wait till the end of the news. Give them some time. So Spike Trap, if you are there, we're happy to get you that code, but I can't because it's literally not letting me whisper that person. So anyway, all right. Ruins of Null boss, bonus boss. The bonus boss, as I mentioned earlier, was turned off. There's some sort of bug, an issue with loot apparently that is being reported about the bonus boss in the Ruins of Null flashpoint. Until a fix is deployed in the next update, we'll be removing the bonus boss and the link mission to it, which was really unfortunate because that was also part of that season's weekly where you get extra points for finishing the bonus boss. But of course, it was really hard to finish that flashpoint at all. So yeah. All right. And so let's see. Jackie Co did do a 7.0 launch follow-up. Basically just, because there's been a lot of negativity. There's some pretty serious bugs out there. Like I said, for me, it's not being able to finish the Ruins of Null. That's sort of like the one big bug. I can work with the fact that, my companion doesn't have color matching on his outfit. And, there's some other bugs that like I was personally affected by the one where you opened up the boxes and it wasn't giving you any gear. But that one actually, the fix worked out really well because that character ended up like just having right in her inventory new boxes to open, and they worked fine for me. So that fix actually worked really well, which was really nice. But it was really frustrating to like open up these gear boxes and not get anything. All right, and let's see. And what Jackie said is, hello, everyone. We spent the week gathering your feedback, reading posts and messages on various platforms. The team's been working on fixing bugs that are being reported, as well as making adjustments how to improve players' experiences. As I've alluded to in a previous post from earlier today, we are finalizing details on when the next patch will be. So we don't know when the next patch is exactly. This will include the UI contrast adjustment. Some people have been saying that the new UI stuff is too bright. I think it's mostly the complaint. And other fixes. When we have that info, we'll be communicating that to the wider player base, including details of everything that will be deployed within that patch. More communication will be coming. Lastly, I understand that there are many topics to debate on the forums, but I'm asking you to please be civil with each other and towards members of the team. Attacking, harassing, and wishing harm against each other and against staff is not permitted. I and the moderation team try to find balance with allowing players to voice their concerns freely and enforcing the guidelines. We ask you to be respectful. Please contribute to the forums in a meaningful manner that promotes healthy conversation. So I'm sure her job has been very difficult since 7.0. That's a lot of bugs that they're working with, and people get frustrated, and sometimes they cross a line. So we support Jackie, and we're sad that she's having to deal with this in that way. But we also understand that there's a lot of bugs out there. Yeah. All right. So some of the other bugs that I thought are worth mentioning: weeklies not matching galactic season goals. Apparently, that's a thing right now. A fix is being rolled out apparently. So hopefully this one is now fixed. But this one, this was just a note from today, right before we started the show. It pretty much came up. So hopefully this fix worked, but apparently the weeklies were not matching the galactic season goals properly. So there was some sort of disconnect there between, what you were doing and then whether you were actually getting credit for it, apparently. And it did not bring the servers down, which is, again, interesting that they're able to fix some of these things sort of on the fly like that. It said, the community team said, while servers will not be brought down, some players may experience a momentary drop in game, but will be able to play immediately after. So, like, if you happen to be on a character that was being affected, you might get disconnected, but then as soon as you went back in, you'd be fine to play, which is interesting. That's awesome. Yeah. Another. This is not a bug, but sort of a clarification, which I was not aware of, and I think should be pointed out, especially for people who've been in the game a long time. The Victorious Pioneer's leveling gear, which is the one with the XP boost on it, and you're supposed to, you can put him on at level 1 potentially. It does not give the extra 50% XP, but only from above level 75, so 76 to 80. So the community team wrote, with 7.0 we transitioned away from armor-based set bonuses, and as part of this we stopped all set bonus effects from applying beyond 75. This includes the Victorious Pioneer set, so it is working as intended. The set will still grant XP bonuses for players below 75. And then we'll be keeping communication open regarding ways for players to level alts more quickly from 75 plus. Interesting. So that one, not a bug, a feature, but a little disappointing, I suppose. I mean, the set came out several expansions ago, but from, ever since then, it was able to still get you to end game before this. Now it won't. It'll only take you to 75. This feels a little bit like how when they realized that, like, people were using active relics to, like, pop right before a boss fight in Operation, then they swap out to, non-pop type relics, just the passive ones, and then they would start the fight. And they got rid of that by basically making it so that if you took off the relic, you would also take off the buff. This also happened, however, to kind of screw over the ricotta relics, because you have this, not ricotta, Rakghoul relics, where you have the buff to not get the Rakghoul disease, and but unfortunately now if you take that off for any reason, the buff goes away. That one's not the end of the world, because if you get the Rakghoul plague and you want to get rid of it, and you have the relic in your inventory, you can simply equip it, pop it, which will kill the Rakghoul debuff, and then just re-equip it and you're fine. You won't have the protection, but at least you'll have gotten rid of the debuff.
Yeah.
So that one, there's a workaround for sure. Unfortunately for this one, it's like in previous, like if you had the leveling gear that you got, this is from the light and dark side event several expansions ago. And it always got you up to the end game before now, but now because of the way they changed set bonuses, this is sort of collateral damage where, this is not going to work either from 76 to 80. It'll get you through 75 though. And this is one of those it is what it is sort of things. If they do come up with some other way for people to get more quickly from 75 to 80, that's fine by me, but there you go.
And that was a concern a lot of people had before 7.0 came, if that gear was going to be usable from 75 to 80. Now we have the answer.
Now we know. Yeah, it's definitely not, unfortunately. Like I said, I've been leveling, and so far it feels about the same as it did in Onslaught and in previous expansions, really, when I'm doing like the 1 to end game leveling. So far, I'm sure the last 5 levels are going to feel slow because there's an awful lot of points to get, and if you're getting them the old-fashioned way and not doing it through the Legacy of the Sith story, it's definitely going to feel slow. But whatever. I mean, I will probably be 75 sometime in Kotfi, I would say at this rate. She's like, she's in the low 60s now. She's about to do Rishi. She's got Rishi, Yavin, Ziost, all of Kotfi, all of Kotet. Maybe it'll be Kotet when she's 75 and then working towards 80. That's still plenty of story. She'll be 80 long before Legacy of the Sith, regardless. So anyway, there's a known issues list. The live list is there's a link in the show notes, and you can find it relatively easily on SWTOR as well. Kitty's gonna put it in the Twitch chat. We're not going to necessarily go through everyone. There are a lot of known issues in 7.0. I did copy paste it just as sort of an interesting exercise. Like if we find out that there's a lot of changes to this list, it might be interesting to have sort of a frozen in time version of it. So I basically copy pasted and I wrote down when I did it, just in case that ever becomes an interesting thing to experiment with. But anyway, they actually start the list with ones where there's already been fixes. For example, even on the last show, we were talking about how the digital collector's edition, they had worked on a fix. If you haven't gotten your digital collector's edition through Steam and it still hasn't come, then you need to contact support team directly by mail or phone. They've already done a fix for the issue that I had, and in fact I already talked about the fact that it was fixed for me, where you were getting those gear containers during the Legacy of the Sith story, opening them up, and at one point you wouldn't get anything, but now they seem to work. The key bindings fix is in here. The the character booster on a command token couldn't choose a second combat style. Apparently that's been fixed. It's amazing how many little details there are, like in a game like this, especially when you change something important, like or basic. Important, yes, but also sort of basic to the game, which is like your character class. What is your character class? 7.0 is that essentially changed what it means to ask the question, "What is your character class?" in SWTOR, because it's no longer
classes.
It's no longer one thing. It's no longer like I'm a smuggler. Well, that's just the story now. What kind of smuggler? Well, previously you could say operative, but that was gunslinger or scoundrel. That was always tied to smuggler now, and now it's not. And there's so many little changes that they had to figure out because of this. Hotfix. There was other hotfixes as well. And a lot of known issues. We don't necessarily have to go through every last one. But a lot of the ones that I know about are in there. The stuff about the customizations, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah. Have you had any other sort of weird bugs? I had. It's funny. The weird bug that I mentioned last episode, it happened to me again, and it happened in the same spot. So I think it's connected to that part of the story. It's in Legacy of the Sith, and my my camera separates from my character and it floats up several meters above my head, and it's really hard to see at that point because it's not in the right spot to be seeing things. And yeah, it happened again. It happened around the same spot in the story too. It's in one of the instances, when you're kind of fighting through corridors, but maybe later on you're going to do the underwater part, but you haven't gotten there. You know what I mean? That sort of part of the story. And it happened again in the same spot, and it sort of fixed itself again too, around the same time. So there's something weird about that part of the story that's making the camera separate from my character. I just still think that's really funny.
Yeah, anyway. Some of the bugs that happen can be just so disorienting. Mm-hmm. We had a bug a couple weeks ago where Kitty's character would just out of nowhere just go up into nowhere, and then all of a sudden just kind of come back.
Oh, really?
And then just go straight up. It was really funny.
How far up?
All the way up until she disappeared.
Oh my!
And then it would just kind of appear again, and then just arbitrarily just kind of shoot up into nowhere.
Does it do falling damage when she lands?
No. It didn't.
Weird.
Didn't do anything, any damage or anything like that. But it was just kind of funny, and we're because we were kind of jumping around and dancing and stuff and going through the Ilum storyline, and then all of a sudden, every once in a while, boop, she'd go up, and we're like, ah!
That's funny. Really... In chat, Wolf of Mandalore saying that did happen to me, but I died from fall damage.
Oh no! You recorded it? Nice.
That's perfect. Yeah, it'd be a funny video.
Well, bugs are always weird. I mean, where we had all the blue bioluminescence plants.
Yes.
And it was just like, whoa.
It can be. I love it when it was that one. It can also be other random sort of little mini objects. So sometimes you go there, it's just littered with bones, like the whole floor is bones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a weird one. I've seen it that way too. Yeah. My favorite, though, is the glowing mushroom ones because it's actually very beautiful. Like the whole area is really gorgeous at that point. It's funny. It wasn't quite the same, but at the end of the Rakata flashpoint on Rakata Prime, you're fighting with Darth Arcus, and Major, I can't remember his name. And the Major guy zipped up in the air like 20 meters and then landed again immediately. I was like, what the hell was that? Because first of all, he should be immune to anything that does anything like that too. But I wasn't even attacking him. My character was focused on Darth Arcus, so it couldn't have been anything my character was doing. Something over there just popped him up in the air and just made him land again. Funny. It was weird. Yeah. All right. Derek, thank you, Anu. Or Ducky, really. Appreciate it, Ducky. All right. That'll bring us to the Force feedback. And we do have several emails today. And let's see. First of all, John writes, hi there. First, I'd like to say I really enjoy the podcast. Keep them coming. Great stuff. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure there was an episode with a guest that had worked on Knights of the Old Republic or knew someone who had. You guys were talking about Richard Garriott and his amazing parties and stuff like that, but I can't find the episode, or am I imagining things? I couldn't figure that one out. I emailed him back. I wasn't able to figure that one out. It sounds great. It could be one of ours for sure that we've forgotten those details, or at least I have. I'm sorry, but it sounds awesome. It's always fun when when you get to talk to someone who's worked on, well, in this case it would have been a precursor, but still, Knights of the Old Republic was really, really amazing. It's possible it was another podcast as well, of course. But thank you, John. I do appreciate the nice things you said about our podcast too. And Ducky wrote, not only with the tip of the week, but also for the calendars, the next Duck Hunt and Utini 500. They're going to be on Makeb. Ooh, Makeb. Well, that's a big area to unlock map-wise, but okay. On March 19th, as close to the equinox as I can get for a Saturday. Equinox means it will be Republic characters, and once again, where on Makeb is Carmen Sandiego. Yes, or Carmen. Plans are that it will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, with info on the instance and which mesa to start looking for her. And join the Utini chat channel if you're not part of the guild. And once we know everyone is founder, we'll start the Utini 500 race. And expect it not to be too long of a race, though you will have to navigate a lot of mobs because it's McKeb. Why, that's true. And while we're on McKeb, for those interested, we'll start the short journey to get the Endurance Datacron. Bring your platforming shoes. It'll be a jumping good time part of the event. That is a fun... both of them are a little tricky, actually. Both of the Datacrons and McKeb are worth doing, of course. All of the Datacrons are worth doing. But both of the McKeb ones are both worth doing because they're actually sort of interesting and challenging to do. Yeah, the Endurance Datacron should be fun, though. And so thank you, Ducky. That is, again, going to be March 19th, so a couple weeks away on Saturday. When he also writes, when I get things ready, I'll update the placeholder at OotiniGuilds.com, the events tab, to be able to sign up. Right now, it just shows that there's an event happening. Thank you, Ducky. We're looking forward to it. And let's see. So finally, from Dark Light, Smooth Wolf. Hey, Smooth Wolf. Greetings, OotiniCast. DL Smooth Wolf here again. Wanted to say now some of us have gone through Legacy of the Sith and went swimming with the Selkath, pun intended. What's the next step until we hear about whatever they're planning to give us in the future? All right, well, this is sort of where we have to dip away from, actually known info into sort of like guesswork, basically. But we did see from earlier in the news that they have not yet decided on a time for the next patch, and the next patch isn't necessarily going to be a 0.1 patch. They haven't even said that yet. So one of the things that, and this is something we haven't really talked about yet too much, I don't think even on the last show, but the way that they set up the story is a lot different in this than in the last one. Like, I guess we did talk about this a little bit, but in Onslaught, the story that dropped with Onslaught was like one complete story where you were either trying to help the Empire or help stop the Empire from attacking the Corellian shipyards, and it actually ended on Corellia with an attack on the shipyards, which, again, you were trying to help or trying to prevent. And because of that, like, the story felt a little more complete, and then they got to tell other stories during Onslaught. So we had the Mandalorian flashpoint, and we had the Final Emperor flashpoint, and we had some of the other stuff. So we had like the stuff that was sort of setting up for Legacy, among other things. And with this one, they're taking a different tack with the story. So not only is it a little bit shorter than Onslaught anyway, and people have said that it feels really short, and we did talk about that last time for sure. But also they're definitely like they definitely set it up for more story. Like last time, like it was a pretty complete story, and it ended where it could have ended the story, and then they got to tell other stuff. This one, they're definitely like the story of the expansion is going to be over the whole expansion, as it turns out, which is sort of a new thing. I guess you could say like when they did the chapters and then they released one chapter at a time, you could argue that's sort of along the same lines. But I think in this case, it kind of took us a little off guard. It certainly took me a little off guard, like, because the story, I didn't finish the Flashpoint, and therefore I got through the rest of the story on one character, and it definitely like sets up for stuff without actually finishing stuff. Because you don't even see Malgus until the Flashpoint, and you're definitely not like taking out Malgus in that Flashpoint, even though you fight him. Like, it's pretty clear that's not going to happen. I hope that's not too spoilery, but it's clear, pretty clear. Like, much more is going to happen with Malgus, and it wasn't going to finish with this Flashpoint for sure. But yeah, because of that, like, it's a very different tack, and it feels very different. But it also makes us really wonder, like, when the next bit of story is going to come out. So we don't know exactly for sure, but given the fact that they are still trying to figure out when the next patch is going to be, because they did say that they haven't set a date for that yet, and I presume the first patch is not going to be the first story patch, that would be too fast. For one thing, there's a lot of bugs that they're working on, like even more than normal. There's always bugs in an expansion drop. This one feels a little heavier. Like, some of the bugs are a little more important, and some of the bugs are, dealing with pretty basic stuff to the game that, people have that are kind of game breaking in some cases, and so on. And they're just working their butt off on bug fixing right now, I believe. again, I'm not talking to the devs, in any, in any sense on this. We have not had like a discussion on this. This is just me using logic and knowledge of the game from 10 years and all that stuff. That's all it is. I would say we're definitely a few months out probably from some story. I would say like if we got it in even April, it would feel pretty fast, but I'd be happy, of course. But we'll see. Mm-hmm. Like we know that they're always working ahead of time. Like they don't. It's not like they were planning on doing 7.0 and then fixing bugs and then they're going to worry about story after that. That's not how it works. They're already working on whatever the story is. But I'm sure that there's a lot of push and pull between like how much time they have to work on bug fixes versus how much time they have to start working on the next story bit. So it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while for sure. And it definitely feels like it feels early enough on in the story when you finish the story, at least on the Republic side. It definitely feels like it's going to take several story patches to tell the whole story of this expansion. Like they're not just planning on just like finishing the story next story patch. Like this is probably going to go through the whole expansion if I had to guess. Not that I know their story ahead of time, but that's what it feels like. So yeah, so I don't know exactly. We know that they're working on PTS stuff pretty soon now. And then they're going to work on getting the next actual patch up. They're going to give us a date pretty soon, but we don't even have that quite yet. So yeah, it's going to be a while for sure. It's going to be a couple of months, I'm guessing. But that's just my best guess. Because we know that they're working on it, but they also have other stuff to work on too, for sure. So there you go.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Kitty?
I have no idea.
There you go. That's probably the more honest way of saying what I said, or at least quicker.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I wish I had insight and I could go, I can't tell you right now, but it's going to be great, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Wolf Mandalore said it would be harder to make new content while fixing bugs versus fixing bugs before you release content, because that way you can focus on smaller bugs you couldn't catch. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, when you release stuff and it has bugs in it and you have to go back and fix it, yeah, that's automatically got to be more complicated for sure. Because then you're presumably there are time budgets that are sort of presuming how many bugs will need to be fixed versus how many end up actually needing to be fixed, and it could be very tricky that way. All right.
So did our friend end up contacting you, or should I pull another name?
Let's see. I'm checking right now. Let's see. It still says user has turned on block whispers from strangers. So I'm sorry, I can't get Spike Trap. I guess you might as well go ahead and do another one.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
The Tsunami Safari.
Hey, Tsunami. All right. Congratulations, Tsunami. All right. Let me end up being Tsunami. Okay. Woo-woo. Congratulations. All right. I'll get you that code. Let's see. Good old Whispers. Let's see.
Whispers.
Tsunami Safari. Boop. There we go. I've got updated our little listy thing there. And that's about that. Do you have anything else, Kitty?
I have one last thing.
Excellent.
Kitty Treats is we are going to be doing a 12-hour stream on her birthday.
Oh, when is that?
That is going to be on 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday, March 19th.
Oh, okay.
Which is coincidentally the same day as the duck hunt.
I was just going to say, that sounds like a familiar date.
It's going to be perfect.
That's great, because that'll be towards the end of it.
And then we can join the duck hunt.
Join the duck hunt and all that. Yeah, let's see. So they're going to be starting around 5 p.m. Pacific, and you said yours was going to end at 7 Pacific? So that's perfect, because 2 hours to do the duck hunt and everything else, Utini 500 and all that. That'll be perfect.
It'll be perfect.
Yay!
Yeah, it'll be real fun. Look out for more information on our social medias, and I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be super fun.
All right, excellent. Then that's a show. Oh, and yeah, and as we said towards the top of the show, if you came in a little later, I am. This is gonna be crazy, but I am gonna turn on the French client, and I'm gonna be trying to learn some French by playing SWTOR in French, starting in a couple of days.
That's awesome.
It's gonna be amazing and probably hilariously bad. Like I said, I have no gift for languages, and yet I am still desperately trying to learn a second language in my 50s. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Satele server, or in our
Utini Rage
Guild on the Empire side, do a /C join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. And again, recommend go to Disney Plus, turn on A New Hope, turn on the French, and listen to 1978 CB radio Darth Vader in the French client. I freaking love it. It's amazing.
I can't wait to check that out.
You can email questions and comments about the show to utinicast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @utinicast. You can find contact details for us on our website, utinicast.com, which includes how to subscribe using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live bi-weekly on Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, by streaming at twitch.tv/UtiniCast. And our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. Thank you to the chat room, and we'll see you next show.
Okay, do we want to raid somebody? I'm looking.
All right, let me go ahead and I have to get to the right stream or screen here, the creator dashboard. Thanks for everyone for coming. We'll try to keep an eye out on the Republic side for people who are trying to join. There's someone who's trying to join who was having troubles with it. Let me get onto the managed stream here. It's one of those things. It's like I think everyone who's able to tries, but sometimes people get excited. They're doing their stories or whatever, and they don't notice or whatever. It's been pretty busy though. There's almost always been a good amount of people on the stream. Who did you suggest?
I put a link in.
Oh, okay. Let me find it here.
Discord for you.
Ah, okay. Oh, I don't know that one. It looks good.
She's really cool.
Glitchmaster A? Or A? Is she Canadian? Oh, it is. Okay. Let me put it. There she is. Star Wars The Old Republic. Here we go. All right. And we'll be ready to raid in 7 seconds. Thanks for coming. And yeah, we'll be getting going on the French thing soon. I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of A, although not every Canadian knows French, but it is their second language. So here we go. All right, and there's the stream. I always like to go over to them and just say hi real quick, and then we'll. Actually, though, I am gonna stop the stream and stop the recording.